Today is all about free games. For the past 8 years, I have dedicated every November to Free Games Month, where I play only free games all month long here on the channel. So after going through literally hundreds of free games over the years, I've made a list. Let's call this the ultimate list of free games. Two notes first, though. These are actual free games. There's no paywalls, no microtransactions outside of cosmetic stuff, and definitely no predatory monetization, like we see in a lot of free-to-play games. Number two is I love strategy games, and so you're going to see a lot of strategy games and stuff like that in my list here. But let's begin with the colony builders section of the list, and that is, first up, Widelands. Widelands is a real-time strategy and colony builder heavily inspired by Settlers 2. Over the years, it has grown with more depth, more variety. That's something you will see with a lot of these in here. They came out like in 2000, but over the years they have developed and really grown into their own game, and this one certainly has done that. You're regent of a small clan. There's a bunch of different types of clans that you can play as, and they all play differently, but you go out, you send your people out to collect wood and stone and build your town up, also fighting against the other tribes that are out there in the world. There's a single-player mode in the game. There's different campaigns. There's multiplayer. I'll have links in the description, and you can with all the that take you to the downloads if they're not on Steam, and if they are on Steam, I'll have the Steam page in there. But there is Widelands. Up next, we have Unknown Horizons. This is an open-source economic simulation game inspired by the original Anno, and like Anno, you start out in an archipelago, you go build your town on an island, but as you get the resources going in and the trade routes and the town growing well, you branch out to other islands. You can live peacefully, or you can go raid and maraud and all that other good stuff, but heavily inspired by the original Anno. Up next, we have Kingdom Classic. If you're familiar with the Kingdom games, if you're not familiar with the Kingdom games, I should say, this one is a side-scrolling kingdom builder. You are a king, and you run around collecting coins outside in the world, bring them back to pay peasants. The peasants will help build your town up. There's a bunch of Kingdom games out there. This one is the original one, which they're giving away for free over on Steam, and still a good amount of gameplay even with this one here. But you go in, build your town. At night, terrible things come in and try to destroy your town, but you go out next day, collect more coins, get more peasants in, build your town up more. There's Kingdom Classic. Speaking of classics, Dwarf Fortress. This is the inspiration for games like RimWorld, Minecraft. If you're not familiar with Dwarf Fortress, one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. There is a Steam version, which you can pay for, of course, but the classic is still updated. You just don't get the artwork. You get beautiful ASCII. No music. The UI is, of course, going to be not as pleasant as the Steam version, but it is still available for free. Take your band of dwarves and set out into the wilderness, build a new mountain home. It's completely a sandbox. Whether you want to build like a fortress like Moria, or a glass tower temple, or a castle, or whatever, pirate ships of dwarven raiders, you do whatever you want. But just remember, when the necromancers, goblins, and forgotten beasts come a-knocking, losing is fun. Up next, we have KeeperRL. KeeperRL, like Dwarf Fortress, has a Steam version, of course, that you can pay for, but you can also play a free version, and like Dwarf Fortress, you can play ASCII mode, so you don't get any graphics or sound, but it is free, and you can pick it up on the KeeperRL website. Also, the dev has a thing on the website where you can donate to charity to get the game for free. If you send $20 to a wildlife charity and send your proof, he'll send you the game. If you're not familiar with KeeperRL, it is similar to Dwarf Fortress, where it's a dungeon building colony sim, but you're the bad guys. So you invite the goblins and the trolls and the vampires to come live in your colony, and then you go out and you terrorize the happy human farmers and the dwarven fortresses and the castles and whatever else. As you destroy their towns, you get more powerful and you destroy everything around you, assuming you survive their attacks on your fortress. That concludes our colony sim. So now we're into turn-based strategy. We start with Freeciv. Freeciv, open source turn-based builder like Civilization, heavily inspired by Civilization. Again, it has evolved over time into its own thing. If you want to compare it to the Civs, it probably fits best between Civ 2 and Civ 3. maybe a little bit of Civ 4 in there, but it is completely customizable. That's one thing that thrives on, is you can play the game pretty much however you want. So if you want a little bit of this civilization, a little bit of this civilization, you can kind of mix and match and make your own rules for it, as well as your own empires. There's unlimited customization here, but it is basically civilization, and you can play it online, multiplayer, all that good stuff. Speaking of Civ, we have Unciv up next, another open source remake of Sid Meier's Civilization. This one is streamlined and extremely moddable. You build your civilization, research techs, expand your cities in this turn-based 4X strategy game. Hex-based this time, but a very streamlined version of Civilization, and available on, not on Apple, but on Google, if you want to play it on your phone. Speaking of Sid Meier, we have Freecol is up next. This one was, like Freeciv, originally inspired heavily by colonization. I think they just started out making colonization, but over the years, this one came out, 30 years ago. Over the years, it has evolved into its own thing. You start out trying to create an independent nation. You got a few colonists. You go to the New World, and turn-based strategy style, you go out and you meet tribes, go to war, explore the world. Instead of tech, you've got founding fathers that slowly develop your country, and eventually you form your self-sufficient civilization, and you fight for independence. Up next is Remnants of the Precursors. This one is a modernization of Master of Orion, the first Master of Orion. You get a bunch of 10 unique races, and you lead them to galactic domination. Like Master of Orion, micromanagement is minimal, and the gameplay is, it's nice and smooth and streamlined space strategy game. This is very much a modern version of the original Master of Orion. And that's what they set out to make, and that's what he made. Waterworks is up next. We're kind of leaving the 4X world, and we're going into card-based strategy games. This is more of a board game style of game. You're placed in charge of the water supply in the medieval town in Poland. In a medieval town in Poland. Doesn't sound very exciting, does it? But it is quite fun, because you are managing that, keeping the town supplied, also developing new research, new technologies that will help bring more water in. Also, your town is growing in time. It's very much a board game style of thing, but it is free, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Rebuild 2 is up next, a post-apocalyptic strategy game. Came out a long time ago, an old Flash game. There is a Rebuild 3 over on Steam that you can pay for, but Rebuild 2 is still free, and like the other rebuilds, the zombie apocalypse has happened, and your job is to manage a town. Your survivors have to go out and scavenge resources, defend against attacks, in this turn-based style thing. You're slowly building up your town, all while things are coming at you, and you're building a tiny post-apocalyptic community, basically. Multiple endings, apparently, depending on how you rebuild your society. I don't know that I've ever actually won the game. I think I always die. TripleA is up next, and this is basically Axis and Allies. Not basically, this is Axis and Allies, if you've played Axis and Allies, the digital version of that. However, as time has gone on, it has slowly developed, and you got tons of community-made maps and scenarios. You can stick with the old World War II, like Axis and Allies, but it has evolved up to fantasy and sci-fi maps. You've got online and hot seat multiplayer, of course, you can put AI opponents in there. It is extremely moddable, customizable, new rules, new maps. It's Axis and Allies 2.0 digital version. That is all that's all for my strategy section. Now we're into war games. SOVL is first up. SOVL Fantasy Warfare. This is not Warhammer. It's basically what this is, the universe here. Build your fantasy army and send them out into the battlefield in this top-down turn-based strategy game. So it is very much Warhammer, but it is not Warhammer. And you got campaign modes. You can do an army builder as well. You can go to AI battle to test out your army that you've created. Plus, of course, you can go to Steam multiplayer, because this is on Steam, and put that army to the test. Battle for Wesnoth is up next, an open source turn-based tactical strategy game with high fantasy theme. Build yourself an army, and in this tactical strategy game, you send them out into the world fighting goblins and elves and whatever else. There are 17 solo campaigns in here, a bunch of multiplayer maps, a great modding community, adding new maps and factions all the time. Even full campaigns are being added in here. You can even do a built-in map maker to make your own stuff. But this is very much a fantasy, turn-based tactical game. Been around for a long time, and Still good stuff. Okay, we're in the simulation and management section of the video, and we'll begin with the ultimate simulation and management. Some would say one of the best games ever made, and that is OpenTTD. As the name implies, it's inspired by the old Microprose game, Transport Tycoon Deluxe. And of course, over the years, it's far surpassed what Transport Tycoon did. But you're running a transport company here. You're building a network of trains, trucks, ships, airplanes, moving passengers and cargo around and making money. It has an incredible modding community and up to 255 players multiplayer. This is deep, endless, replayable simulation of transportation networks. Good strategy, management, or, you just like watching trains. There's OpenTTD. Speaking of OpenTTD, we're going to move into Simutrans, which is very similar at first to OpenTTD, but once you start putting some time into Simutrans, you kind of start seeing some of the differences. And in the past, I've referred to Simutrans as the Dwarf Fortress of transport games, and where OpenTTD is like simple to get into, and you get your operation up running nice and smoothly, nice and peaceful. Simutrans takes that, but then adds in a ton more depth and customization on top of that. Of course, another incredible modding community in here. I played previously in the 1700s, so I had like wooden ships and horse and buggy running around. But your goal is to establish a successful transport company. Passengers, mail, haul that stuff around. And similar to OpenTTD, just with a lot more behind it, if you want it. A lot more depth if you want it for Simutrans. Okay, let's leave the trains behind. We are going to space. And how can you not talk about a free space game without mentioning Aurora 4X, the ultimate space 4X? Speaking of Dwarf Fortress, I've called this the Dwarf Fortress of space. But not in, like, how it plays, but just in scale and depth. I think even more so than Dwarf Fortress. Made by a sole developer. I think he just wanted to make a space game for himself. But he's thrown it out there so we can enjoy it. But it is incredibly complex and deep game. For instance, if you want to make a missile, you got to first develop the engines for the missile. And then you got to develop the launcher for the missile. Well, then you got to build the magazine to hold the missiles. And then the fire control system to direct the missiles. So, yeah, that's how your tech tree works, and you very, very slowly become a space empire, starting with basically nothing. And a pretty incredible game. Next up, we have Endless Sky. This is a space trading game and combat, of course, inspired by the classic Escape Velocity. You work your way up from a tiny shuttle, cargo ship, or fighter, and you slowly customize and upgrade that ship into a massive fleet of ships if you want. You get money by carrying passengers or cargo, doing little quests, convoys, bounty hunting. You can plunder. You can even capture enemy ships. There's different factions in the game, and there's this big story going on. You can take sides in civil wars. It says there's 8 to 16 hours of like main storyline, but if you got a bunch of side quests as well. Hundreds of star systems, alien species. Choose between more than 50 ships and several hundred ship upgrades. Next up is Transcendence. This one actually has a paid version on Steam, which has a few extras, but the free version is available on the websites. Again, another sci-fi action exploration game. You pilot a starship, through a randomly generated galaxy this time, full of different factions and pirates and aliens and all this stuff. You've been summoned to deal with things as sort of the story, but you can kind of do your own thing in here. You get different factions, as I mentioned, and different missions that you can choose to kind of develop your ship up, and in this kind of like RPG style of combat. NAEV is next up. This is about space exploration, trade, and combat. You're going to travel the galaxy, earning money by trading, fighting, and performing missions heavily inspired by Escape Velocity. NAEV stands for Not Another Escape Velocity. And similar to Escape Velocity, you run around, buy different ships, you upgrade, you customize them, a bunch of different factions, similar to the last two. Each ship has different designs and there's different personalities out there in the world, and it is a true space sim. Next up, we actually have two versions of this one. We have Ur-Quan Masters HD and Freestars, the Ur-Quan Masters. It's Star Control 2, just taken in a couple different directions. Classic space game. You go out, you are the last remaining human ship out in the universe. You go out and try to find what's going on. Earth is being attacked by some hostile aliens, so you got to run out there, find some allies, upgrade your ship, and explore thousands of unknown worlds, and get dozens of quirky aliens to help. Ur-Quan Masters HD takes the old Star Control and makes it look pretty. HD graphics and all this good stuff. Free Stars tries to preserve the original Star Control art style and sound and all that stuff. Planet S is our final space game. This is an RTS. Your goal is to colonize multiple planets. Almost plays out like almost kind of like an Anno, where you start out as one planet and you colonize that planet. It has different resources depending on which planet it is. Build your city, supply it, and you slowly grow to where eventually you colonize more planets. And each planet has different resources, and so that feeds into your empire. And it's over here on Steam as of a couple years ago. All right, we're moving into, that was a good segue into the RTS section of the video, and we'll begin with 0 AD. Open source RTS, still in development, and it has a strong emphasis on historical accuracy, very much like Age of Empires, if you remember that. That's how it initially started. But again, over the years, it has made its own thing. Speaking of historical accuracy, they even depending on who you choose, like the Greeks or whatever, your buildings and your units are going to be Greek. And they're even named that way. So there's a strong emphasis on historical accuracy, but it's an RTS. So if you like Age of Empires, this is kind of your thing. Up next, we have 0K. Over 100 unique units, hundreds of maps. There's a campaign, there's solo, there's cooperative modes. Of course, there's multiplayer with up to 32 players. This is, think of it as like a massive real-time strategy game. There's even a competitive online campaign called Planet Wars that you can join into if you are into it, but it is very much a lots and lots of units RTS thing. Beyond All Reason is an homage to Total Annihilation and Supreme Commander, focusing on massive scale battles. You can have hundreds, even thousands of units, and they're all individually simulated. Even the projectiles are individually simulated. It's a pretty incredible game, especially for free. But this is a RTS with explosion physics, terrain deformation, lots and lots of customization, and lots of different kinds of units as well. That sums up our RTS part of the video. Now we're going to move into RPGs. So RPG number 1, we've got Flare, the Empyrean campaign. This is a classic Diablo-style hack and slash. You got real-time combat, handcrafted maps, dungeon crawling, you're exiled from your homeland, and you have to go on a quest to regain entry. You go through many different regions and lots of side quests along the way. This is a pretty straightforward ARPG, very much Diablo style. Eschalon Book 1 is over here on Steam. This is an old school RPG, massive outdoor environments, there's sprawling dungeons, turn-based combat, you have an open world, this non-linear story that you're following. Very inspired by Ultima and Wizardry, and Book 1 is over here on Steam. There's also a Book 2 and 3, which are paid for, so if you like Book 1, I think that was sort of the idea behind the dev, was put Book 1 out there for free, and if it's still many, many hours of gameplay, but if they want more of that, they can go to Book 2 and then Book 3. I couldn't go do a free games list without mentioning Path of Exile. Online action RPG, dark fantasy world, very much a spiritual successor to Diablo 2. You've been cast out of your homelands, you're fighting to survive and grow stronger through combat, and loot. This game, the first thing that comes to mind for me anyway, is the character customization. Deep character customization. Hardcore, endlessly replayable. Depth, build variety. Lots and lots of updates with this thing. It does have monetization, but it's a very well done way of doing monetization where it's just like cosmetic stuff. You don't need to buy anything. You can play this game for years for free, which I think most people have done. And last in our RPG list is Caravaneer. This is a post-apocalyptic trading and combat RPG. You got an open-world strategy with some survival and economics. You're just a lone traveler on a desert wasteland. Civilization's collapsed, and your goal is to build a caravan. Go trade between settlements, survive bandits out there, hunger, and harsh terrain. There's also a story in the world, but very much an open-world sandbox. It's kind of slow-paced like survival sim. Think of it as like a part Oregon Trail and part like Mad Max, but it's definitely its own thing. Okay, we begin the roguelike section of the video, and there's a lot of these. So I'll move kind of quick as we can get through these things, because these have to be mentioned, so these are some good stuff. Nethack, number 1. First came out in 1987. Heavily inspired by the original Rogue. This is one of the games where the term roguelike comes from. Deeply rich, complex fantasy D&D roguelike. You choose your class and you dive into a dungeon and retrieve, of course, the Amulet of Yendor. Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, traditional roguelike, like NetHack. You got dozens of races and classes. You dive into the dungeon. But this time, you're trying to get the Orb of Zot. Like the last two, we've got ADOM, Ancient Domains of Mystery. It's a classic deep fantasy roguelike RPG. Exploring a massive world. This time, you're actually going outside. In the Dracolore chain, you can fill with dungeons and monsters. It's one of the most influential. These are all influential traditional roguelikes. And you go out, you can gather companions. There's lots of randomized dungeons. It's got more than a quarter century of development in a huge world. And you can become a champion of order or chaos. We have one of my favorite games ever here. A few of these actually are my favorite games ever. But we got to mention Tome. Tales of Maj'Eyal. Instead of just having one giant dungeon like Dungeon Crawl or NetHack, you are exploring an entire lore-filled continent. Vast open world, you choose your class and your race, and there's a million different character combinations, and whatever loot you collect will develop your character. All these games are the games that you can play for many, 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 I was going to say hours, many, many, many years, and a lot of folks have done so. But where Tome separates, you get this massive world. Unreal World is next. Unreal World, where instead of like going into a dungeon and combat focused, this is a survival focused game. Others are diving into the dungeon. This time you are set in Iron Age Finland, and you're living off the land. So hunting, fishing, building shelters, crafting, surviving the harsh seasons. And it is you choose one of like different Finnish-inspired cultures, and they all have different skills and things, and you set out into this massive procedurally generated world. Very open-ended, though. There's no goal, no win conditions. It's much slower paced, and surviving the elements is the name of the game here. Elona. Elona is a weird one. Quirky is a word we'll use. Open world Japanese roguelike RPG. So it's got a mix of traditional dungeon crawling, but it also has, we'll say, bizarre humor, freedom, and chaos. You can do whatever you want. This is a true sandbox. He plays an adventurer who survives a shipwreck in this fantasy world of they call it North Tyrus. Now, you can do anything you want. You can fight monsters. You can steal. You can just run a farm if you want. Run a shop. Go collect pets. You can marry NPCs. You can become a pianist if that's what you want to do. Cats are talking. There's alien invasions. This is a weird one, but it has a huge freedom of choice. You can be a hero. You can be a criminal. You can be a farmer. You can be a tourist. Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead. And I should mention Cataclysm, Bright Nights as well. This is a survival, post-apocalyptic world roguelike. There's not just zombies, though. You've got all kinds of other terrible creatures out there. Big bugs, killer robots, eldritch horrors. But not just run around and kill things kind of roguelike. This is very much a sandbox. You build a base, you craft a bunch of different things. If you want, you can slap a big turd on the side of an RV. Very, very open into what you can do with the game. But you start with nothing. And the beginning of the game is all kind of the same. Start with nothing, you got to find food, you got to find water, you got to find shelter. Try to survive the nights. And if you can do that, then you can slowly make your way out into the world. Very Project Zomboid is heavily inspired by this one. Up next, we have Gnollhack. There's a lot of games that are forks of NetHack, and this is one of them. This is a modern heir to the legendary NetHack, they call it, with graphics, sounds, and voiceovers. I put this one in here because this one's on mobile as well, so you can play it on your phone. It's pretty well done for a new version of something like NetHack. Grab yourself a class, go into the dungeon, and hack and slash. Moonring came out here just a couple years ago, actually, made by one of the co-creators of Fable. It is an open-world, turn-based RPG. It was inspired by Ultima with this crazy art style. It's very much a modern roguelike that plays and feels like an old roguelike, like NetHack or ADOM, one of the older roguelikes. And it is here free on Steam. Last on the list, we have Pixel Dungeon. Pixel Dungeon and Shattered Pixel Dungeon. Those are both free. They are similar, but where Pixel Dungeon is traditional roguelike. It's got nice pixel graphics. You run around in the dungeon. Very, very user-friendly. And of course, you go out, fight monsters, find the Amulet of Yendor with these procedurally generated dungeons and 6 classes. Shattered Pixel Dungeon takes Pixel Dungeon and just sort of expands on that. And they're both free. I have a section here of Outsiders, and I want to mention Haven and Hearth. This is a survival crafting MMORPG set in this fantasy world inspired by Slavic and Germanic myth. You start with nothing, including clothes. But slowly but surely, you craft your way into from lean-to homestead, and eventually, like, city. Persistent world. Everything is player-built in the game, and everything can be destroyed. While exploring, you'll come across, like, player-built towns. I've really had a lot of fun playing this one with folks here on YouTube. And just seeing the town develop over, like, that first week or two was fantastic. Open PvP and permadeath. So if you die, your character is gone. And you'll hear reviews of this game about people complaining about the toxic community and some, like, murder hobos going around just trashing your stuff. And yeah, that happens. It's actually kind of hard to recommend this game because of that. However, it does kind of add some excitement to the game because, as you know, the world is terrible and dangerous, and you can die anytime. So your towns have to be walled in, all your valuables locked away, and it does add something to the game. What I have found that the best time for me to play anyway is once a year or so. There's a server reset. Everyone's back at the beginning. There's no high-level people just running around just killing for fun and destroying your stuff just because they can. And that first couple weeks, I find a ton of fun. There's Haven and Hearth. Well, I couldn't do a list of free games and not mention my own. This is Mappa Imperium. I made this one. This is a print and play game. I fell into this like world. I could do a whole video on this world of print and play games. And essentially, if you're not familiar with it, with print and play, it's just a PDF essentially over like on itch.io or something, and you download it, print it out or whatever, and you play the game. That's basically your rulebook with paper and pencil. You can play the game, and that's what Mappa Imperium is that I made. It is a map making game, world building game, I should say. And so as you take turns, you are developing these fantasy cultures and growing them and kind of making a fantasy map. It was kind of like inspired by making a world for a D&D campaign, but I had to mention it. I made it. So there you go. But anyway, there's my list. That's it. We made it. That is my list of 41 if you count Mappa Imperium, of my favorite free games out there. The ultimate list. Now, if you have some, please let me know. I want to hear them because I'm always looking for more of these. It is November as I am making this video, so I got to find some more to play for this month because all month it is free games month. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.